It's no secret to anyone who knows me that I suffer from depression, that I battle with it every day. Um, some days, good days are just not going below the surface and feeling like you're drowning. For a lot of us, most days aren't happy, they're just survived. When you start to go below a certain degree of inner self talk, you know that you're doing bad to varying degrees. So, you kind of have to know where you're at mentally. You have to have some kind of way to judge exactly how depressed you are, how sad you are. There's a whole lot of levels between I'm okay and I'm thinking about killing myself. There's a whole lot of levels. And all those levels are not okay. There's a whole bunch of levels where it's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be around. What am I doing in life? And I think that it's important to be able to figure out your inner dialogue. So when you're treading water, but you're not drowning, is kind of when you have in your head, "Man, I don't want to be here. I'm not doing great. What am I doing?" And when you're starting to drown is when you're saying mentally, "I wish I was dead," a lot. You might say it many times. On bad days, I say it without thinking about it, and without meaning to. It takes a certain level of willpower to keep above that level. And that's why a lot of people who have depression they kind of cut themselves off from their emotions or from their inner dialogue. Their inner dialogue becomes an utter mystery to them. I've seen this happen with a lot of people because they get so used to telling other people that they're okay and that they're fine that it starts to seep in as a lie to themselves. And if you lie to yourself that much, then you're not really listening to yourself or knowing where you're at mentally or knowing how bad you are mentally. So some of the realizations that have helped me recently is that I've realized it's my duty to the grander computational force. Now, I call the source, or God with a big G, the spirit beyond creation, the grander computational force. And we're all here to figure out our own little piece of the puzzle, to conquer our own little trials and tribulations. So, thinking about reincarnation, I've probably dealt with depression in one form or another and sadness in similar ways for many lifetimes. And I haven't quite figured it out. I haven't quite figured out my piece of the puzzle. But I view it as my duty to the grander computational force that there's something that the whole is trying to figure out through me. And if I don't figure out my piece, then a future me in another life is going to have to figure it out. So I got to figure it out now. It's my duty to the grander computational force to figure out what is wrong. What is the sadness and depression I'm feeling? There's always a root. It's not always spiritual. For people with depression, it's not environmental. So environmental aspects can make depression worse. If you're in a job you don't like, I'm kind of in a job I don't like, it can make depression a lot worse. If you don't have a lot of friends or you don't have a lot of people you can reach out to and talk to, if you're not talking to yourself and being honest with yourself, those are also a little bit environmental, outside of the core problem that is depression. It's a lot of days it's a battle, and it's the truest battle in the sense that it's a battle against yourself, against those parts of yourself that are dissatisfied and trying to mitigate what you can actually do in the world, what you can actually realistically transform around you and within you with your highest aspirations and goals. Because most of us can't realistically figure out how to get everything we want or be fully satisfied or actualized as a person, or at least it takes a long time. So there's a mitigation between the reality of depression and the best you could be. And that's kind of the mitigation that a lot of us get stuck in or have to figure out, really. But there's always a number of tools at our disposal. We don't think enough. We don't think of the mental capacities that are available to us, the opportunities around us that are available to us, and our natural latent skills and abilities that we have. It's really easy to overlook a lot of that when you're depressed, because it turns everything a shade darker. No matter what life you have, depression will turn everything a shade darker. And it's hard for a lot of people that don't suffer from depression to think, what are you sad about? There's people going through a lot worse stuff than you. Why are you sad? But that's not how depression works. It is, I don't like to use the word disease for it because it gets overused, but it is a disease. Even if you're suffering from sadness, from your environment, your situation in life, that can be the same as depression. But some of us just have the major depressive disorder or a similar disorder that is always there regardless of our surroundings. But the surroundings in our, friends, workplace, school, feeling like you can express yourself and you're becoming the best person you are, all these things can have an impact on your depression. But there's a bunch of tools at your disposal. You as a human being, if you can listen to some of this and understand some of this, you have a remarkable amount of tools at your disposal to use to win against the hardest parts that you have to deal with about yourself. But it is our duty to figure out our little piece of the storm. In all the tears out there, we may be just a few drops, but it's our responsibility to clarify those few drops. And if everybody did that, the seas would be calm and clear for all of humanity. It's our responsibility to deal with our own thing. Because just if you ignore something, if you don't address it, or if you don't talk to yourself, you don't listen to yourself, you don't have a way to gauge whether you want to die or if you're okay, there's a lot of different levels. You're not going to be able to do that. You have to take responsibility and look at the depression and sadness. Don't run away from it. The more you run away from depression or just trying to address it within, it might always be there. But the more you try not to deal with the beast, the faster the beast gets in chasing you. And from your own inertia, you'll eventually wear yourself out and it'll catch you, because that's the nature of depression. Sometimes you have to deal with it through medication or anxiety med, or, sometimes meds aren't the way to go. Sometimes it's a way of thinking, self-talk, like I was talking about, and finding a way to live that you can be the functional human being. Maybe not the best you can be, but be functional for yourself and keep on moving forward. Because if you're still moving forward, you still have a chance. And, a lot of people will say, you have love, you have friends, you have family that love you, you might have a lot going for you. It doesn't feel like it outweighs the pain sometimes for a lot of people with depression. That's another thing that a lot of people don't understand who don't have it, or who don't quite understand it. And there's a lot that people with depression can't communicate verbally, or can't figure out a way to say it or explain it to where somebody else can understand. Both other people's lack of understanding, but also human beings aren't perfect communicators. We're not going to be able to explain exactly what this is and what the nature of this animal is. But once again, as I'll reiterate again, it is our duty to the grander computational force. I know that sounds very cold, that's why I don't use it very often, but it helps me in my thinking, trying to figure out why things are the way they are. I feel like everything is just because everything is trying to figure out itself. And we are suffering individually because there's something we need to figure out. Whether it's completely changing our environment or our circumstances, that might be part of it. But a bigger part of it, if you're depressed or have depression, is figuring out everything within. It's good to be able to quiet everything, but once you quiet the mind, you still have to be active in the mind, and then try to understand what's going on and how to fix it. There's no one solution to depression for all of humanity. There never will be. It's because we are so unique, so individual, even when we don't feel like it. And we are unique and individuals because we're each dealing with something that we are meant to figure out, and that's our duty to figure out. If it doesn't feel like, or if you can't get the willpower or fervor to do it for yourself, think of it in relation to the grander computational force, or the source, or God, or gods, what have you, that it will make everything else better. It will solve the piece of the puzzle if you solve your piece. Figure it out. There's not always, the world's not going to look like hope and rainbows all the time. What was it from Never-Ending Story? When hope dies and dreams are forgotten, the nothing grows. And that feeling in your chest when you're depressed can get bigger and bigger, and it feels like there's either a hole or something heavy in your chest. That's the lotus in the heart. An energetic reference. So basically, the lotus of the heart is it's our connection to the grander whole that provides us or connects us with grander compassion. That's kind of why the heart hurts on an energetic level, or the chest hurts, the middle of the chest hurts or feels heavy or empty, like there's a hole there on an energetic level, is because there's something wrong with that connection. But we can't just wait around for it to just get better. We have to address it. We have to fight the beast. Even if we lose a lot of the time, just keep trying again. If you fail in a promise or something, just keep trying to fulfill it. Don't let it destroy you because you failed this time. And you always have so many tools at your disposal. You just gotta think about what they are. But don't hide behind "I'm okay," because there's a whole lot of levels. Figure out what your levels are and what you usually feel. And I'm honestly, anybody, even people who aren't depressed, it's good advice for everybody. And anybody watching my videos, I want to say, don't just watch and think I'm talking about somebody else or just to myself. This is very much for you as well, whoever you are. Because you're going to go through times when you're very depressed. You might not have a disorder, but you're going to be depressed. It's going to happen. And it's a battle we got to fight on our own, ultimately. We can have support, but we're going to have to fight that battle on our own. Just keep in mind that this is something within your capability to deal with, even if it doesn't feel like it most of the time, or even if it's less than most of the time or more than most of the time. Almost all the time, it feels like you can't deal with it. You're still here, still have tools at your disposal. Don't be so afraid to delve within, to run from the dark thoughts, that you never figure out what they are, and the darkness just grows. When the darkness grows, when the nothing grows, that's when it can eat us up. When we finally run so far, we get reached to the tiniest corner of our mind or our being, and we'd never address the darkness or never lit the lamps along the way, and it just swallows us. So be careful, be mindful, and understand that you can do this. It's going to be hard, but you can do it. I can do it. Didn't really feel like it today, but I'm still here. I'm still trucking along. It's a combination of many things, and I imagine the Divine Mother is smiling upon me. But if you're still here, and you did suffer from depression, or you do suffer from depression, take my words to heart. And do the best you can to figure out your piece of the puzzle for the sake of the grander computational force. You can do it. Thank you very much. I hope this has been interesting, and all of you have a wonderful day.